We are the Muses, goddesses of the arts,
and proclaimers of heroes,
and pirates,
and villains,
and allies,
and eels,
and aliens,
and princesses,
and inventors.
Oh, yes. And there's a lot of these glimmers out here.
honestly.
Hello, and welcome to the Lorcana Muses podcast. I'm Brittany,
And I'm Stephanie.
and welcome to our special Christmas edition.
Yay!
So today we're going to be just a little bit more casual, talk about the story, just thinking about how this game might connect us to the holiday season and looking at how we enjoy the game, both in a casual perspective, and we'll look at some kind of competitive things, but today's mostly our happy little Christmas filler episode.
Well, and this game has brought a lot of people to their chosen family too, which is nice. So if you're not celebrating with your actual family for one reason or another, it's nice to be able to be connected through your chosen.
Yeah, no, I think that we've established a great little family community.
Yeah.
The people that we play with, and it's definitely something where I'm like, well, is everybody having a good time for the holidays together? So
I mean, you ran all over town today delivering cookies to most of our
yes,
members.
I did. So we made a bunch of cookies this weekend and then packaged them all up, and I've been a little Lorcana Christmas cookie elf today.
So
Yeah, no, so I enjoyed doing that today. It was good to see everybody, even if we're not going to see them all this week as normal, just because some people are out of town and things like that. But it was nice to deliver them. I still have a few deliveries to do after recording, but
yeah.
good Christmas elf.
What I love too is even though we're not going to be together for the holidays, or at least for this holiday next week, our store's open on New Year's Day, and we're just going to have free play all day, snacks, see everybody, like just ring in the New Year rights with Lorcana.
Yeah, so we're really excited, just kind of making a casual day for Lorcana. We'll do some competitive play testing because a bunch of us are going to the LCQ, but
And I am too now. Yay.
yeah, so I'm really excited to get ready for the LCQ. I am having a little bit of a crisis with my deck, which
Shocking.
yeah, I'm not overly confident right now with my deck, and it's frustrating because I don't know exactly where I'm going wrong with it, because it's very dependent on the matchups, and I want it to be more consistent with the meta matchups than it is right now. And so I'm not quite sure what to add and what to change. The deck itself is feeling inconsistent.
Mm.
And that's frustrating because I have almost everything at 4 except for like just a handful of cards.
Yeah.
And so that's frustrating because it should be more consistent with that. But yeah, I'm having some consistency issues, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going wrong. It's not a true Mufasa deck, and so like a lot of people are like, well, you shouldn't have anything that's not a character, and I'm like, well, it's not really a true Mufasa deck, and Mufasa is just a bonus in the deck. I'm using it mostly for the Amber discount, like with the Pluto, Gaston, and Doc, to get to some of those bigger Ruby characters. And I'm not quite sure if I'm leaning enough into that side of it.
Yeah.
I am, like, I've already basically told myself that hyper aggro is going to be my weakest point. I'm just hoping I just don't run into it, which it's probably going to still run into it, but it is my weakest matchup right now. But I'm also struggling against like Steel Song and the Ruby Sapphire like lore game deck with the shark, like and so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it still seems to be okay against Amethyst, Ruby, like just the traditional list. It seems to be fine right there. But I don't know. It feels inconsistent. And then it's okay against Emerald Amethyst. But it depends on what's in that deck. And so
Emerald Steel,
I haven't really played a lot of recently. Like it just hasn't been around, and so I don't know. Like in general, like the deck does pretty well top decking. So I mean that's kind of part of the point of it. So discarding what's in my hand, except for like right in the first 3 turns, should be fine. But in general, it does okay. Or at least it did a few weeks ago, but I haven't really played against it since.
Interesting.
Like I haven't run into it at League or when I've been playing. So I don't know. I feel like I do not want to play a meta deck.
No.
Like I don't want to do it. But I'm also like at that point where maybe my deck building skills aren't as good. But I also but I've won so much with this deck.
I just thought the meta is really rough right now.
Yeah, I just think like I also am like, well, what is it going to be anyway? Because like at the big event in Atlanta, they had like a bunch of Steel Song players, or not necessarily Steel Song, but Amber Steel variants that were running pretty consistent and were winning. And I don't know how I would do in that matchup because I've played some pretty decent Steel Song players here recently and lost.
Yeah.
So if that's going to be more of the meta, I need to alter my deck to lean more aggressively against that set. But then if I lean too far aggressively into that, I will lose to the Ruby Amber, or Ruby Amethyst and Ruby Sapphire decks.
It's rough. I don't envy anybody who is participating in the LCQ or Nationals. It's a rough go right now. And it's hard to, like, you kind of understand how our local meta works, and it does fairly well right now against that. But putting it up to the test of a bigger ball game is always scary.
Yeah, no, I like that's where I'm at with it. I'm like watching all of these like bigger events, looking at the deck lists that people have been playing, and I'm just like, well, I don't know. It's a big question mark. And coming in like 11th during league night did not.
Yeah, ouch.
Yeah, no, it didn't help. So I'm like, is it because I played a bunch of new players who weren't necessarily playing decks that were like, I beat them, but like I lost to some established players, and then I ended up not playing anybody else that was well established, so it was kind of difficult to gauge whether or not my deck was working or not. But I was like, I love new players and I love playing against new players, but right now I need to be playing against players that are a little bit more competitive and focused so that I can see exactly where
I think that
deck is going and everything.
Yeah, I think that's where like competitive, and there haven't been a ton in December because it's December, but I think that's where like tournaments are really great for, before league play are really great for, because I don't want to discourage new players from not coming out and playing league. And I know that's not what you're saying either. I'm just
no, absolutely
trying to think. There's 2 weeks left until the LCQ.
Yeah, I'm like running out of time.
Yeah, so that's why I think part of the reason we were like, let's just do free play on next Tuesday rather than this like big tournament is so you can sit down and like throw it against some meta decks that will be there,
established players,
but then also you get a break and you're able to have fun and enjoy the new year and enjoy playing with everybody, because we will play multiplayer. We'll have hopefully pack rushes going on and possibly draft or sealed. So it's nice, I think, to practice and practice and practice and practice, but also to take a break and to step away from that and realize.
And I'm trying to balance out both, but it's definitely.
I wonder if you just take out Mufasa. I don't know where you would take in for Mufasa.
Yeah, I mean Mufasa, honestly, like he's not
seems like a link
in the deck.
Yeah,
but he does quest. He has 2 lore tips, so like that's a big reason.
Yeah,
like, and honestly, he's part of the mind game of the deck, because like if they hit him, yes, he most likely will still hit a character, but it's Yeah, so like that's where I'm at with it, is like I'd rather them target him than other characters.
What are you inking more consistently and like not seeing play with?
Early, if it's like in the first, like I'll ink Super Goof or I'll ink,
Okay.
but like that's only if it's like the first few turns. I'll ink Mufasa if it's the first few turns.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
It does help he's inkable.
Yeah, so it's just like I'll ink those things, especially if I have two of them in my hand or things like that. I'll ink Maui. I prefer not to ink Maui just because he's my only answer to locations and things like that. But it was nice to take out, a Queen's Castle with a Lumiere and a Maui on one turn.
Yeah.
That just always feels good because like Queen's Castle's not going anywhere. So
Nope.
I don't know. I that's where I'm also at. I'm like, there's also so many evasive characters right now in like that people are playing in Amethyst.
Yeah.
Like besides Diablo
Like Genie.
and yeah, but Genie, like I only have 4 brawls, so like, and I don't have any characters that are evasive that I'm running at all. And so I'm thinking about putting in the fish hook so I can make my characters evasive, but then
You start to get way more and more away from Mufasa.
yeah, and so then I'm like, okay, then Mufasa's like becoming less
Yeah.
prevalent, which he was already not the point of the deck, but then what would I put in instead?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of at a loss as to how to alter my deck. And like I asked for some advice in some of the Discord servers, and all the people that were giving me advice had like more, they wanted me to lean more into Mufasa. So I didn't really agree with what they were saying because that's not the point of my deck. Like it's, yes, Mufasa is in the deck, but it's not a true Mufasa deck. And so I guess I was asking players who just traditionally play Mufasa. And so they were saying I should put in like Mother Gothel, and so that I had more characters for Rapunzel to heal. And so I was like, okay, like, sure, but like I run Rapunzel across the board to then have Rapunzel heal, right? Like I'm not hurting for characters to heal because I end up, just having my characters challenge to then heal with Rapunzel anyway. So like I have the Mulan in there. That's an automatic character to heal. But other than that, like it's not. I will say that was really funny. I used Pluto to play Mulan for free, and then used 2 ink and Gaston to play Rapunzel for 2, and then get the card draw and then ink. And I had a Raya out and was able to re-ready Gaston and play another character. So
That sounds like a nice turn.
it was a beautiful turn. So like I'm having really excellent turns and gameplay with this deck. But then other times where I'm just like stuck at 18 lore, or have too much control versus not like that. Like if it feels bad to like play a Lady Tremaine onto an empty field.
Yeah,
Or,
it does.
Like, so I'm just like, wait.
I like that with when I play Rapunzel and there's nobody to heal. Like, what's the point of you?
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. It's like I've held a Rapunzel in my hand and then had to play it.
Yeah.
Because
You need to put something out.
Put something out, because that's the other thing about my deck, is it's generally faster than a lot of other decks, except for like hyper aggro Steel Song or hyper aggro just in general. And I don't know. I like, part of me is like, I have the Sisu package, and I'm using that Sisu package, I feel like, relatively strategically, and it actually works really well against like the Ruby Amethyst deck, and the Emerald Amethyst decks. Both of those have characters that Sisu hits most of the time. And it's definitely works against hyper aggro if I can get it out fast enough. But I don't use the Supsu, like I know the 3-drop that takes out a character that has 1 attack or less, because of the uninkable count. But I am using like the hand size Sisu. I think that's Emboldened Warrior. I don't remember necessarily the subtext name. It's like
Soup.
yeah, Soup Sue is the one that she's the human that holds the bowl of soup, and then the hand size one is based on your opponent's hand size.
Yep.
And then the big shift one. So, but I'm running the big shift, and that's basically my only board wipe because I don't have a B prep in my deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if adding a board wipe is a good idea because I feel like it hurts me more than it hurts them because I don't know, I establish a pretty wide board state in general. So
yeah, I don't know if B prep is the answer for it. I'm trying to think of what else you could use, but
yeah, I think I'm really good up until mid game.
Yeah.
And then my end game is where it runs out. So I think that's what I need to do is establish more of an end game with the deck.
Yeah. Put in like Pirate's Life again or more Thieveries.
Yeah, something like that because I don't have any of that in there right now.
Yeah.
Because right now the only things I have in there that are not characters are 4 brawls and 2 medallion weights.
Yeah, you could play with, if you take out Mufasa, play around with some of you could play with like, either Thievery or Pirate's Life. And then that way you can throw that, you can throw Super Goof out, and then you're quickly getting lower back mid-game.
Yeah.
End game.
That's fair.
Some food for thought. So kind of take a little bit of the Lorcana decks and the Mufasa decks and then make your own.
Kind of in the middle.
In the middle, which is where we like to be. Somewhere over the rainbow.
Somewhere over the rainbow. Wrong franchise.
Dang. Interesting. Well, I hope you get there. I hope some more playtesting will help you figure it out. I'm just looking forward to going with you again to another event. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I promise I won't complain about your car.
We'll believe it when we see it.
I just like being a brat.
That's fair. Yeah, no, so yeah, I'm excited because the Muses podcast will be represented.
Yep. So I get to do like lots of content and run around and I don't know.
Which will be helpful.
Shenanigans.
Because I was worried that I would be like a terrible content creator because I'm going to be playing in the LCQs.
That's fair.
You're coming.
Yeah. Going as the attendee and just hanging out.
Yeah. I'm glad you're coming for content because I was like, I'm be texting you and be like, this is what happened. And this is what happened in between rounds, worried about that. Not that I'm expecting to go that many rounds, but I'm really hopeful to at least make it at least one round in the LCQ. That is my goal.
That is the goal.
My goal is to at least win the first round so that I can get to the second round, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I am excited for side events and stuff too, though, because I really liked the side events at the other.
Yeah, they've kind of just continued to do better and better, so it'll be interesting to compare this to Vegas.
Yeah, for sure, because this is supposed to be, continentals, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be bigger and better, right?
Bigger and better.
So I'm hoping to see...
We get some of the Disney magic, because we'll be staying at the Disneyland Hotel.
Yeah, and we're sad. We're not actually going to Disneyland, but...
It's a lot to swing. I can't believe the prices for Disneyland.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, inflation's a thing.
Yeah,
so...
but... no, it's sad to be at Disney without going to Disneyland. It's probably the first time I've ever been just so close and yet so far. But yeah, staying at the Disneyland Hotel will be super awesome.
That'll be helpful. And then being able to hang out and do dinner and stuff like at downtown Disney will help too.
Yeah, I just like being right there.
Right there.
Not have to go anywhere. Yeah. That's part of why we wanted to stay at the hotel is because like that's where the event is happening.
Yep.
And so we've heard that from other people who have stayed in the hotel or very close to the venues previously because we didn't stay in the hotel we couldn't stay. There wasn't a hotel in
Vegas, yeah.
Or in Fort Worth. Like both of those were at like different centers that weren't in a hotel.
Yeah.
But I heard from people who, stayed in Toronto that
they just went downstairs. Which is so nice.
So we're excited to just play that up.
Hopefully we'll get some kind of announcement for Worlds. I'm hoping they'll push it back to later half of 2025. So that way I could do that too.
Yeah, I'd be curious because then that kind of pushes back the next round, right?
It does. But now that you can, with Australia being announced in, is it February?
Yeah, theirs is in February.
They can go to Worlds. So it's just interesting to see how like that timing will play out.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I'm kind of, I mean, the scuttlebutt was that was happening in March, but then that has been established that was incorrect. And so we have no idea when it's going to be. It's also very interesting to be like, okay, so European continentals already happened and they had Azurite Sea as as being legal, like just but it had been not out for very long. And now we'll have continentals for North America, and we'll be nearing the end of. So it's. I feel like the meta will be even more established for, what's playable and things like that. But also there's been an odd amount of gameplay in this month, right? Because
it's a holiday. It's a holiday,
and there's been a lot of.
We have set jams nearing when we come back from LCQ at the end of January, going into February, and we'll most likely start hitting card reveal season soon, which is one of my favorite times.
Yeah, I'm excited for Archazia Island because I love all the side characters and Disney pets kind of thing. So kind of excited to see
Big fan.
If they're adding more franchises along with Bolt, when they're adding more like pets. It's like, that's what it seems like, right? It seems like a pet island.
Yeah.
Are they going to add the Aristocats? Are they going to add, Oliver and Company, right? Are they going to add
Oliver and Company?
Yeah. So like those are easy franchises to add, especially if you're leaning into pets. So
now I have Why Should I Worry stuck in my head.
Or like Lady and the Tramp, things like that.
Oh, Lady and the Tramp.
Like all of those are like
all the great ones.
Like we have all the Dalmatians already. So that would have been fun. Or maybe we'll get some Floodborn variations of them. Maybe we'll get some of the characters from
Floodborn Hey.
Floodborn Hey.
Holding out hope.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some, because of Moana 2, we'll get some characters from Moana 2 that they might not have had, or they have access to now.
Yeah.
Like
it'll be interesting.
Variations of like Pua, things like that.
Oh, goodness. So lots on the horizon.
Okay, so we're kind of establishing kind of a little bit of a story time, just kind of re-looking at the whole story of Lorcana, because we have a lot of listeners that have come in after the fact. So a Disney Lorcana trading card game, right, is in the world of the magical realm of Lorcana. Lorcana is the name of the realm.
I am also always shocked at the new players coming in who don't know that there's a story behind this card. Like it's a TCG and that's it.
Yeah, no, there's a full story behind it. So
I'm like, oh, sit down. Do you have the time?
Yeah. So
we know the story.
So at the heart of the world lies the Great Illuminary, right? It's a repository of all of the Disney stories. Okay. It's preserved as fragments called lore. So we're gaining lore. We're gaining parts of the Disney story. And we are Lumineers. So we are given the task to collect the lore, so the parts of the Disney story. You're harnessing magical ink to summon glimmers, which is manifestations of Disney characters and items, and the glimmers are categorized into 3 types. So we have storyborn characters that are faithful to their original Disney narratives. So what was already established has been established. And we have dreamborn characters, where reimagined versions of Disney characters offering new interpretations, things that could be true within their traditional stories. And then the last type so far we have is the Floodborn characters. So these characters are transformed by a mysterious cataclysmic event, adding an element of intrigue to their origin. Something happened that the Great Flood from into the Inklands, caused them
Rise of the Floodborn.
Wrong set. Caused them to be altered
Yes.
versions of themselves. So
you see, like, Cinderella stout-hearted. She's no knight.
So Cinderella, who is not necessarily the strongest of characters, turns into a knight.
You have Gaston, intellectual.
Gaston, who is very much not an intellectual, turns into an intellectual. Things like that are Floodborn variations of characters that not necessarily happened.
And yes, Daryl, he is a villain.
Yes. My husband has some interesting thoughts on Gaston. So our primary objective as Illumineers is to collect lore fragments, enriching the Great Illuminary, and safeguarding Disney tales. The game unfolds across various regions, all known as the Inklands, and each add to the Lorcana universe.
Mm-hmm. So that's when they introduce locations.
Yes. So in the first chapter, we introduce players to the foundation of the story and the basic mechanics of Lorcana. So that was when we had the basic characters. We had some evasive characters. We had we had a lot of just plain characters.
Yeah.
Right? Like just
We had some rush characters.
and things like that. So rush, evasive, those were the main. We had a few warded characters, but in general, most of the characters were relatively simple to follow. And then we added some more complexity with Rise of the Floodborn when we added in the Floodborn characters so that you could start shifting. Then that was revealing that there was some event that happened that caused these characters to be changed. Then Into the Inklands was released, and that's when we started having locations. So that was the first set that introduced locations. And instead of having an art card with it, we got a directions for how to use a location. And as someone who's played lots of locations, I really appreciated that addition. Then we had Ursula's Return, which was the first big shift in our story.
Yes.
Because we had previous sets had revealed little bits of the story, but we hadn't had Ursula as established as the first big bad. And so during Ursula's Return, you had the separate game where you could battle just Ursula, and as Illumineers, we were tasked with
taking her down.
Illumineer's quest was to take her down. And she had the half Hexwall crown. And so the half Hexwall crown,
she had the full Hexwall.
She had the whole Hexwall crown. I always say half because we had
the card. Yes,
had the card. So she had the whole Hexwall crown, which gave her a lot of power over the realm of Lorcana. And as Illumineers, during the Illumineers quest, we were able to break the Hexwall crown, making it to where she no longer had the power.
We locked her away.
She's definitely not coming back ever. That's not how that works.
Well, we haven't seen her in a few sets.
That's true. That is true. We have not seen her, but she's probably going to come back because she's the best. Then we had Shimmering Skies. So this was kind of a big celebration after taking down Ursula. And so there's a party element, and all the cards were nice and bright, and like we had a carnival, and it introduced some new characters and
Ursula's Return had new shift mechanics.
Yes, Ursula's Return had new shift mechanics because you were able to like shift Diablo by discarding an action card, and there was a few other cards that you could shift using, like Pegasus. When you shifted, it like had a different shift mechanic. Mulan, when you shifted, had a different shift mechanic.
And then they had Sing Together as a mechanic.
Together. So like we've added different card elements along the way, and Shimmering Skies just added a bunch of fun character types, but not necessarily anything.
It started unraveling the new mystery.
Yeah, so we started seeing hints of a new mystery because all can't be well in the realm.
No.
And by the end, we see that the Grand Illuminary is falling within the story. So then we have our latest set, which is Azurite Sea. And during Azurite Sea's reveal, we, as the Muses, revealed the half Hexwell crown, and we were seeking the half crown. And so we saw that Jafar has been wanting to then gain power within the realm of Lorcana. And he's using his mind control powers to have Basil help him to find those
artifacts and pieces.
Artifacts. So we don't know if he's helping others help him too, but we see.
Yeah, definitely Basil. Poor Basil.
Yeah, poor Basil. And then when we have had this next set be revealed, we have seen set 8 will be Jafar. And so we're assuming that he's definitely the big bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's called Jafar's Reign, so I would assume.
We're definitely assuming that that's going to be what is happening.
They could be throwing like a huge red herring at us and throwing us off.
For sure. And there definitely could be somebody controlling Jafar. Like, so we have that, but we do see
We do see Jafar.
We do see Jafar as the next big bad. And then we think that there might be another Illuminator's Quest related to this, because the Iago card that was revealed looks like it has some sand elements within the card that look like the tentacles from the Ursula's Return set. So just some kind of connection. And then, so in the Azurite Sea, we also had some thematic elements that were built on. So we have more inventor type cards and archetypes and pirates. So those were the two big archetypes that were leaned into. And I feel like pirates actually became more of a competitive type.
Yeah.
And inventors is getting closer. We are getting closer to having some tribal decks that are going to be more competitive. Like your princess deck is mean.
It's mean.
It's mean.
And people are like, ew, that's really gross. Oh, you're playing with all the Cinderellas and all the Ariels. And they don't expect it from me. And they're like, oh, wait, that was really mean.
That was really mean. And it works. And yes.
I love throwing people off with it.
So the next set is Archazia Island.
Yep.
Which we assume is within the Azurite Sea. Because within the Azurite Sea, there is a maze that was established on a few of the cards that they were trying to search.
Yeah.
And we think that the Archazia Island is what is in the center of that maze. We don't know that for sure, but based on what we're thinking is that's what was in the center of the maze of the sea. So we have Archazia Island, which is going to be released in March.
Maybe. They haven't confirmed that.
It's not for a
but that's usually the timeline.
Yeah. It should be around March. And so we're definitely going to have characters from Bolt.
Yay!
He was the image from the release.
Yes.
So I'm assuming he's in the card game.
I would assume.
But,
never assume.
Never assume. And you really think that Bolt, because he has a mechanical arm.
I think it'll introduce a new game mechanic, because it's been about 2 sets since they've released a new mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think we're going to have some kind of equipment, I know it sounds redundant, but equipment to be able to equip to your glimmers and your characters.
No, I like that idea. I like the idea of it attaching things to a character.
Because I don't think and I know we said this last episode, but I don't think we're ready for dual colors. And I know that's where a lot of people are heading with, because Bolt has some steel and amber elements to him.
Yeah.
I think it's teasing it. I just don't think it's quite there.
I don't think so yet. I think maybe like set 10. Something like that. Something like where it's like the
2-year anniversary.
Yeah. Something like that where it's going to be, I think it's too, like, there are elements of this game that, like, it's still a new game.
Yeah, I think.
Like, we don't want to have too many
complex, because then you lose the aspect of this game being really easy for new players and new people to TCGs to pick up, because that's something that I know Ravensburger and Lorcana team value, is that if you're new to TCGs, if you're new to playing at all, this is a pretty easy game for you to pick up.
Yes, absolutely. So do you think I told most of the story that we have?
I do. I have my theories about where the story is going. I've shared them here. I don't think Jafar is alone. My delusion is telling me that it's Hades helping him out, but probably not. It's probably some other villain.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Hades.
He's been very quiet.
He has been very quiet, and he was definitely
He was scheming.
inspiring, but I also think it might be the queen.
The Queen of Hearts or the Queen?
No, the queen.
The Queen, okay.
So I think because she was also conspiring with her villains, like with her glimmers,
Yeah.
in that one card, the sapphire card, where she's sitting within a room of herself.
Yeah.
Similar to how Ursula was also revealed.
Right.
Her set, like
No, I don't disagree.
other glimmers.
I just have my, Hades is my favorite. I do like the Queen, though. She's pretty cool.
I think I love Hades. Like, I think he's an amazing villain. He's one of my favorite characters, but like, I don't think it's
It's not him yet.
not yet. It's just based on what we've seen in the cards. I don't think that's
Yeah, and that's fair. So I think there's gonna something happen within the Illumineers that represent all of our colors too. I don't think things are gonna remain hunky dory between what is there, 3 or 4 of them?
Yeah, 3 that we know of.
So I don't know if somebody's gonna turn. Alex has kind of mentioned it multiple times to me, and I think we've mentioned it a few times, is if there was the ability for the flood of ink that ran through the Illuminary, if something happened to like a different flood of ink or whatever, it changes the morality of some of these Floodborn cards.
Yeah. No, I love the idea of mixed morality. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that Disney really leans into like the gray characters often, but we don't really have that in here. And
Yeah, and
right? We have Ally, which could go either direction.
Well, because ally is a blanket term for the good allies and the bad allies. So I would like to see it change, like, all of the heroes and villains to their opposites, but I could see an argument that that's too much, but I could see an argument for the weak-minded, right? So some of those allies that are morally gray, like Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
She could be swayed either way. So
well, and I think like Mr. Smee, right?
Yeah,
like we saw, he's
not truly evil. He's just a blundering fool.
Yeah, he's easily manipulated. Into doing what? I mean, he is a pirate. But he's a pirate because all his friends are pirates.
Not all pirates are bad.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what we saw. All the Winnie the Pooh characters are pirates. Right?
Yeah.
So are we going to say that the Winnie the Pooh characters are evil pirates?
No, maybe not.
Probably not. So that's something I want to see more fairies. I'm hoping that they're going to establish more fairies, and I think that'd be really neat if they brought in like more of the Tinkerbell fairies and things.
Me too.
Like from the Tinkerbell.
Those are such beloved movies, and they're so good.
Yeah, so I think that would be good to establish more fairies, because then we have characters that lean into the fairy, like because we have the Tinkerbell from this latest set who like amps up other fairies, and so I just don't know if there's necessarily enough fairies for that to work. Just like I said, like with the tribal decks, like having
that's
more characters.
That's how I feel with, because I want the dragons deck to work.
Yeah,
with the new Sisu, but there's not enough dragons yet.
Mushu. I don't know why we don't have Mushu. I'm sure that there is a reason. I'm sure it's a good reason.
A good reason, maybe.
But that's something that we need to establish more of, is just having the ability to have these tribal decks be competitive.
We're so impatient because there's so much IP for them to work with within Disney. It has been a little odd for me to try to like rhyme or reason their brain and like, why are we getting some IPs? I understand Sword in the Stone because that is Ryan Miller's favorite movie. But then I'm like, why do we have some of these other ones that, like Tailspin? Who was watching Tailspin?
I mean, I loved Tailspin.
I did too.
But some of the choices do feel random. And like some of the, like so many great mouse detective cards, right? Like that's also so random.
So many people I know have not seen that movie ever.
Yeah, no, so it's just like one of those things where it's like.
But then you have, and maybe I just think that a Goofy movie is beloved, but everybody I talk to is like, no, a Goofy movie is my childhood. So
Yeah. So I'm wondering if
that's my favorite game.
like
Is
it's easier to get access to that
maybe
for certain cards and like
it reminds me of when the movies were in the vault.
yeah.
Like, can you get them out of the vault, please?
No, and I mean, there's definitely like there's negotiations they have to do for
Absolutely,
every IP,
yeah.
and like they don't have a blanket IP release, right? Each one has its own and
Yes.
things like that. So, and like a lot of those movies were made from different studios and things like that. So, movies and TV shows were made with different studios. So that is also part of their negotiation that they need to work on.
I get that. So until then, I will just continue to make the decks that I have with the characters that are available, I guess.
Yes.
Speaking of, I guess, since this is our special Christmas episode, I did build a Christmas deck once upon a time.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I love Christmas decks. I won a set or not a full set, but I wanted my Ursula with a Christmas deck. And so it holds a special place in my heart because it was my first set.
Yeah.
Um,
Mine was, so I think back in September, we did 2 franchise theme night. And so I almost played the Mickey Mouse and Friends because that's the most accessible. There's like 101 cards.
That's what I picked.
And the Little Mermaid.
Oh, fair.
So that was my Christmas deck, or my Ruby Emerald deck to be more correct.
When we're talking about Christmas, we're talking about Ruby Emerald. I know you technically can do like sapphires and steel.
Yeah.
Like a winter deck.
A winter deck, so it's not just Christmas.
But yeah, no, I would do Ruby Emerald to be that.
The only time I play Ruby is in theme decks.
Which is it's the only color I actually play.
I do love some of the cards that are in. It's just fun to see like what cards I don't look at ever because I don't play those colors very much.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh wow, there's such pretty art. These are really cool mechanics because I know the Lord gain and the Lord like take away, I guess. Lord trash is a ruby and amethyst like ability. I don't really see it in steel. I see like the only thing we get close to steel is if you challenge, you get lore.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And same in amber. But no.
So I did a mid-range control deck when I was running Ruby Emerald. And so my deck, and this is from, set 3, so like it doesn't have a lot of the things. I did add a few set 4 cards in here at one point. But it used DeVille Manor to just have some 1-drop locations just in case I didn't get my 1-drop Pegasus. Then it had Flynn Rider, which is whenever this character is challenging player discards. I used Morph, and then Ursula, Deceiver, and Deceiver of All used. And then so it just leaned into having some mid-range control. So using like Teeth and Ambition and Mothers Know Best, and having some Strike a Good Match to get some card draw. And I used Has Set My Heart because there was items that I was just getting hung up on, right? Like just being able to discard and have items be destroyed at that time. And I actually think I could probably build one now that would be even better. I did build a Robin Hood deck with the Action Robin Hood. That wasn't doing badly, but I didn't like lean into it enough to fully establish what would be working. I have thought about rebuilding one. I just don't necessarily know. There's so much steel and emerald. I feel like steel completely destroys emerald decks. And so like with the amount of steel song that there's out there, I just didn't feel like it was going to be competitive again. And so that's something I should look at reestablishing, but not necessarily before LCQ because there's only 2 weeks. So that's kind of where I was at with. But I really like the idea because I love Prince Eric. I think like he's really a fantastic card, and Super Goof, one of my favorite cards, right? I think that set 4 added a lot of control elements, like the Bee King Undisputed was really helpful. And so it'd be something interesting to look at. So like a Christmas deck, I like calling it a Christmas deck, even if it's not necessarily that happy. Unlike Disney makes me happy at Christmas time.
Disney always makes me happy at Christmas. I'm sad I'm not at Disney for Christmas.
Right. So that's where I'm at with it too. Is like I've been at Disney at Christmas so many times in my lifetime. It's like it's my favorite time of year. I really like going at Halloween too, but
I was just telling Alex a story about being a little bit homesick when we moved here, and I was having a rough time in high school. My home, by the way, is Alaska, so from Arizona, it's a wild difference. I was missing snow, and then my parents like surprised us Christmas morning with a trip to Disneyland. And at the end of the night, when they're doing the parade, they have the snow bubbles come out that like simulate snow. And here I am, 16 years old, and I know my hormones were running rampant, but I'm sobbing. Oh, and Alex is like, I've never heard that story before. And I said, really? Because it's one of my favorite family time Disney memories I have. And
yeah,
you don't have a lot of those, especially as a teenager.
Yeah, one of my favorite season of giving stories was when we grew up, like we went to Disneyland, and one of our favorite things was just be in downtown Disney listening to the live music. And I think I might have told the story before on the podcast, but we sat there and we were enjoying the live music, and then there was a kid with like cerebral palsy in a wheelchair that was also enjoying the music and just having a great time. And he was enjoying the music so much that my mom felt compelled to like buy the CD of the musician to give to the family. And that mom was just so grateful that we saw that, you know, that feeling of joy. And she was saying how like they couldn't go to Disney because it was so expensive, but they wanted the magic of Disney, so that they were just in downtown Disney enjoying, you know, absorbing some of the magic. And it was just like, it felt like a great spirit of giving type of thing. Like we were already at Disney, but it was definitely...
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, no. And I think of that story often as like we were at Disney. We were fortunate enough to been at Disney.
Yeah.
Or at downtown Disney, just listening to music and able to share that element with, you know, with this other family. And like, I think of that often, right? Like I think I was like probably like 12 years old when that happened, but because they were buying a CD. So I'm like, and so it's just one of those stories that reminds me of Disney and the spirit of giving. And when I do think of Christmas, I often think of Disney.
I do too.
It makes me feel nostalgic and warm and fuzzy.
Even outside of Christmas, it's just a lot of your childhood is wrapped up in Disney. So I am the same way. Another time that I remember a lot of is when I was getting ready to move out of the house. My sister was going away to college. We were really sad because, you know, you grow up with your sister and yes, you fight and you don't get along, but she's also my best friend. And my parents were like, on Christmas, hey, in 30 days, you guys are going to go to Disney World for the first time, but just the two of you. Like, we're not going. And that we still will be on the phone and talk about that trip. And because it was a week long, it was my first time either one of our first time to Disney World, which is a whole nother ball game when you're only used to Disneyland. But it's just cool. And then that's something that we always like have and to hold on to when we're now miles and miles and miles apart, because she lives on the other side of the country. So I got to take my girls to Disneyland for the first time a couple of years ago. My mom and dad gifted that to us. They have been very fortunate in life to do all these things for us, which is I recognize now is a huge feat to do that. But it's just, yeah, I love it. I love Disney. Not to get sappy, but
all about the sap.
it's just so magical. And when you're not even watching a Disney Christmas movie, I'm just watching, Hercules, or I'm watching, heck, even when I'm watching just Disney Plus with the girls now, we're watching Big City Greens, which is, it's not a show I would choose as my first show, but it's cute and it's still Disney. And it's just really nostalgic. Like, I remember growing up and watching Disney with my family, and they probably thought the same thing is, the heck is this show?
What is that, so Raven?
Yeah, they're like, she can see the future. She gets on the shenanigans.
Yeah, so I really like the idea because, I think Disney's values show kindness and generosity and imagination. I feel like that kind of just intertwines with the holiday spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking of that, I thought of a few characters that we could have Floodborn Christmas versions or festive versions. So I was thinking of Floodborn Scrooge McDuck. So within the Scrooge McDuck himself is right from the A Christmas Carol, the Disney's Christmas Carol. He is the Scrooge.
Yeah.
It's literally his name.
His name.
And he doesn't become a philanthropist until the very end, but a Floodborn version of him would be him being a philanthropist from the very beginning. So not having the bah humbug of it all, but having him be a festive philanthropist be his tagline, and have him be covered in Christmas lights or something. And then I was thinking a snowbound Elsa, where she's in a Christmassy outfit, wearing the big snow muff type element. I feel like the outfit that I'm thinking of is very similar to the Belle outfit from the...
Well, there's the Christmas special that Elsa and Anna were did.
Yes.
I don't remember what it's called now. But it was very cute.
It was very cute. But yeah, so something like that where it's a beauty of a snowy Christmas, because she's already has the snow and ice.
Yeah.
Elements, right? I guess she wouldn't necessarily be a Floodborn, but she'd just be probably just be have some more snowy elements of that, have her creating more snow creatures,
little mini marshmallows.
But I also was thinking, a friend of ours made us some Lorcana ornaments for our tree. I didn't actually put up my tree this year, sadly, but it was more of just a timing thing.
Yes.
Less of a bah humbug thing. And I have a kitten who would just completely knock it over. I had to cut my kitten from last year. I had to cut him out of the trees.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to have to do that again. But yeah, so I have the ornament. It's hanging from my Ursula, Ursula's cuff right now.
How fitting.
So, but I have a Lorcana ornament. But I was just thinking of other things that you could, using your bulk to make a fun ornament, or
Katie,
earrings,
the lore keepers, and she put out a YouTube video on how to create those ornaments out of the cards.
Yeah,
which didn't look that hard until I sat down to try to do it.
And you're like, oh wait, it's more difficult.
But they're super cute, and I loved that idea. So if you want to check out how to do something like that with all your bulk, go check out her YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I like the idea of, I am more of a holiday baker versus crafter. So I thought about maybe making a Lorcana inspired cookies or something, with blue frosting for Sapphire, or ruby red cookies for something like that. Now, I just made my traditional cookies for most of the year, but it would be kind of fun to make a Lorcana inspired snack, and maybe we'll do that for our New Year's party.
Ooh.
So but I am so happy that we have an upcoming set to be excited about, along with our LCQ conversation. So next week, we're going to talk about our resolutions for the year for Lorcana, both as a podcast and as players. And we'd love to hear from you about what your Lorcana-inspired affirmations are for the year. I don't necessarily want to call them, resolutions.
No, I think goals are good. Yeah.
Affirmations, things that you want to think positively about for the new year.
Yes.
So
what you're trying to strive for, because I think it's good to put goals into place. I understand not calling them resolutions, because there's a lot, Brad, to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I do like what the Illuminators do. You were mentioning they kind of check in monthly to see if they've met goals and stuff.
Yeah, so I think we should do that, where we do check-ins on like, hey, have we increased our listenership?
Yeah.
Increased our followers?
How is your playing going to meet whatever player goal you have personally?
Yeah. Did you go to league so many times
Yes.
this year? Did you create a new theme deck? Like things like that as goals for the year. Like I'd love to make a theme deck for each new set that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to make a competitive deck for each set and make it work for each set champs, right? My goal is to continue to keep having,
Good
success
Yeah.
with set champs and things like that. So we'll talk more about what our goals are for the year next year in the next episode, which we'll be releasing in the new year.
Yes, in 2025.
In 2025.
In the future.
So the next time you hear from us will be in the new year.
Another year older, another year wiser. No, not really.
So in the meantime,
This is it. We'll never get wiser.
never wiser, only more deranged.
Maybe older.
Definitely.
If I can't figure out how to stop time, definitely older.
I need some floodborne variants that establish time problems.
We do have grandfather clock. I feel like he's pretty close.
He's getting
Cogsworth. He's like the unofficial mascot for the new year now. But however you guys celebrate, we wish you a happy holidays. Please stay safe, protect your own mental health, and because I know it's not always happy this time of year either. So we do recognize
it's definitely bittersweet.
Yes. So we love you guys. You can follow us on all of our social medias at Instagram and Facebook, the Lorcana Muses podcast, and on X at the Lorcana Muses pod. Also on Blue Sky at the Lorcana Muses podcast. And then email us at thelorcanamuses@gmail.com.
Happy questing.
Happy questing.